There is something sitting in your kitchen drawer right now that the cleaning product companies have spent 40 years making sure you never think to bring into your bathroom. It costs about $1 for the whole roll. It has been in American homes since before most of us were born. And when you know what it actually does, and I mean really does, not the foolish thing the internet has been telling you, it will change the way you clean that room forever. I am Ruth Yoder, and I want to show you the truth of it today. Now, I want to be honest with you right from the start, the way I always am, because honesty is the only thing that makes a video like this worth your time and mine both. There is a claim going around the internet. You have probably seen it. Maybe it is the very reason you clicked on this video that says you ought to drop a ball of crumpled aluminum foil into the tank behind your toilet, and it will keep the bowl sparkling clean without you lifting a finger. And I understand why that sounds good. I do. Lord knows none of us are looking for more scrubbing to add to our week. But I will not tell you a thing that is not true just to keep you watching. That is not how I was raised, and it is not how I mean to run this. So before we go one step further, we are going to look that claim square in the eye and say plainly what it is. And then, once we have that settled and out of the way, I am going to show you what aluminum foil actually does in a bathroom. The real things, the ones that work, the ones my grandmother used without ever once calling it a hack or a trick or a life changer. She just called it keeping house. My name is Ruth Yoder. I keep a home here with my husband and our children the plain way, the way it was handed down through the women before me, my mother, her mother, the old women in our district who wasted nothing because they could not afford to and would not have wanted to even if they could. They did not have a separate bottle for every surface in the house. They had a few good things and a great deal of knowing. And the knowing, as I have said before and will say again, is worth more than any bottle you can buy because the knowing travels with you and the bottle runs out. What I want to give you today is the knowing. The real kind. Not the kind dressed up to look clever on a screen, but the kind you can take into your own bathroom this afternoon and actually use with your own two hands. So pull up a chair, or don't, I can't see you, and let's get into it. The real problem with your toilet. Nobody talks about. Before we talk about foil at all, I need you to understand what you are actually fighting in that bathroom, because most people have been fighting the wrong battle their whole lives and losing, and they think they are losing because they are not scrubbing hard enough or buying the right product. That is not why they are losing. That ring in your toilet bowl, that dull brownish gray circle that creeps back 2 days after you scrubbed it white, the crust around the base of your faucet, the cloudy film on your shower fixtures that no amount of wiping ever quite removes. Most people look at those things and think dirt, and so they do what you do with dirt. They scrub, they spray, they buy the blue bottle and the green bottle and the one shaped like a gooseneck that promises to get up under the rim, and it comes back every single time. After a while, you start to feel like the bathroom is winning and you are just visiting. Here is what my grandmother understood without anyone ever explaining the chemistry of it to her, because she lived with hard well water her whole life and watched what it did to every pot and kettle and basin she owned. She used to say the water is not dirty, it is full, full of the ground it came up through, full of the stone it passed over, calcium, magnesium, iron. These are not sitting on top of your porcelain the way mud sits on a boot. They are bonded to it. The water brought them in dissolved, and when the water dried away, they stayed, hardening a little more with every flush until what you have is not a stain, but a mineral deposit that has dug itself in and made itself at home. Scrubbing at it is like trying to sweep a nail out of a plank of wood. The nail is in the wood. You can work yourself half to death, and the deposit just sits there and waits for you to stop. And here is the thing that might surprise you. Around 85% of American homes run on hard water. 85%. So if your bathroom never looks quite clean no matter how much you clean it, you are probably not doing anything wrong. The problem is flowing right out of your tap. It is not personal. It is chemistry. And chemistry, once you understand it, is something you can actually work with. The myth. Debunk. What foil in the toilet does not do now. The foil in the toilet tank. Let us deal with this directly because I said we would, and I meant it. The claim, as it usually goes, is this. Drop a ball or two of crumpled aluminum foil into the tank behind your toilet. The foil somehow cleans the water or charges it or does something to it that keeps the bowl from staining. Some versions say it releases ions. Some say it changes the pH. Some say it just sort of quietly does good things in there, like a helpful guest you never see. I want to be gentle here because I know a lot of good people have tried this and wanted it to work and told their friends about it, and I do not want to embarrass anyone, but it does not work. It does not do anything to the water. Aluminum foil sitting in your tank does not release any meaningful cleaning agent. It does not affect the mineral content of the water. It does not keep the bowl clean, and it does not prevent staining. There is no mechanism by which it could do any of those things, and I will not pretend otherwise just because it is a more exciting story than the truth. What it does do, and this is where I ask you to pay attention because this is real and it matters, is cause trouble. Those little crumpled balls of foil move around in the tank every time the toilet flushes. They work their way down, and the working parts at the bottom of that tank, the flapper valve that seals the water in, the fill valve that refills it after each flush, those are made of rubber and plastic, not designed to have metal objects bumping around them and catching on them day after day. A flapper that gets nicked or warped starts to leak. A fill valve that gets fouled runs constantly, and a toilet that runs constantly, that you can hear hissing quietly in the night, that one can add hundreds of dollars to your water bill over the course of a year without you ever noticing until you open that bill and your heart drops a little. And on many toilets, particularly the newer ones, opening that tank and putting things inside it will void the manufacturer's warranty. So you will have spent your afternoon making your toilet run worse, your warranty run out, and your bowl no cleaner than when you started. And that is a poor trade by any measure. I would rather tell you the plain truth and have you trust me than sell you a trick that costs you money down the road. That is how my mother taught, standing at her own sink, and it is how I mean to teach you what aluminum foil actually does in the bathroom. So here is what that dollar roll actually does in a bathroom. The real thing, the honest thing, not the viral claim, but the one that has been quietly working in plain households for longer than most of us have been alive. Let us start with the mineral ring, not the ancient one that has been building since 1980-something and has basically become part of the toilet at this point. That is a different conversation. I mean the fresh buildup. The crust just starting to form along the water line, around the rim, on the lip of your faucet, on the chrome of your shower head, where that white chalky outline keeps coming back no matter how many times you wipe it away. A piece of aluminum foil torn off and crumpled loosely so it has ridges and edges dampened slightly under the tap will lift that fresh mineral scale from porcelain and chrome better than almost anything else in your house. And here is the part I love explaining because it is such a satisfying piece of plain sense. It comes down to hardness. Aluminum is softer than porcelain, softer than chrome, but it is harder than the thin layer of mineral scale sitting on top of those surfaces. So it takes the scale and leaves everything underneath completely alone. It beats the one thing it can beat and leaves the rest in peace. Steel wool cannot do that. Steel wool is harder than the scale and harder than the surface both. So it takes everything, and those tiny scratches it leaves behind are exactly where the next round of mineral deposit gets its grip. You cleaned the surface and roughened it at the same time, which means the next buildup comes back faster, which means you buy another bottle sooner. I am not saying anyone planned it that way. I am just saying that is how it works out. Foil leaves the surface smooth. Smooth surfaces give the next deposit nowhere to grab hold. You are staying ahead of the problem instead of always chasing it. To use it, tear off a piece roughly the size of both hands laid flat. Crumple it loose, dampen it. Work it in small, gentle circles, no harder than you would touch something tender. Dampen, crumple, gentle circles, rinse. 2 cents and 5 minutes, and the job is done. The grandmother method, the full toilet cleaning system. Now let me give you the full plain method for the toilet itself, the whole system, because a trick without a system is just a trick. A system is what actually keeps a house. The trouble most people have with bathroom cleaning is that they wait. They wait until the ring is visible and stubborn and making them feel some type of way every time they walk in there. And then they attack it, and they work hard, and they get it mostly clean, and they feel good about it for approximately 2.5 days before it starts coming back, and the whole miserable cycle begins again. That is not cleaning. That is fighting a battle you have already decided to lose. My grandmother never fought that battle. She did not give the buildup enough time to become a battle. She stayed ahead of it, a little at a time, and the bathroom always looked clean because it was always clean, not polished up once a week, and left to deteriorate the other 6 days. Here is the rhythm. Once a week, you do 5 minutes in that bathroom. 5 minutes is not a cleaning session. 5 minutes is maintenance. 5 minutes is staying even with the problem instead of falling behind it. You start with your crumpled, dampened foil on anything that is showing the beginning of buildup. The faucet base, the rim of the drain, the water line in the bowl if you can see it starting to form. You work it gently, the way I described, and you rinse. 2 minutes, maybe 3. Then you put a handful of plain baking soda into the toilet bowl, about a 1/4 cup, nothing precise, just a generous handful from the box. Let it sit there a minute. Baking soda is mildly abrasive in a way that will not harm porcelain, and it is alkaline, which begins to loosen the mineral bond. While it sits, you wipe the outside of the toilet with a damp cloth, the tank, the seat, the base, the floor around it where the dust and the grime settle, and nobody ever thinks to wipe because it is the floor. Now take your toilet brush and work the baking soda around the inside of the bowl. Up under the rim especially, because that is where buildup starts and where most brushes never quite reach, and where, if I am being honest, most people never look because you have to sort of crouch down and peer up into it, and nobody wants to do that, but you do it anyway because that is where the trouble hides. Then flush. The bowl rinses itself. You have spent 5 minutes. Your bathroom looks like someone who cares lives there. Now here is the one caution I will not let you skip. You may have heard that vinegar is good for mineral scale, and it is. It is mildly acidic, and it does loosen calcium deposits. And if you want to use vinegar in your toilet cleaning, go ahead. It is a fine thing. But you do not use it in the same moment as baking soda. Mixed together, they react and foam up, and while that foam looks satisfying, like something is happening, it is mostly just theater. The acid and the alkaline cancel each other out, and you are left with water and a bit of salt and a great deal of bubbles that did very little. Use them separately, and each one works. Use them together, and they mostly work against each other. That is chemistry, not opinion, and it is worth knowing. For a more stubborn ring, one that has had a few weeks to settle in, fill a spray bottle with plain white vinegar and spray the inside of the bowl generously, particularly along the ring. Close the lid. Leave it for half an hour, or if you are doing it before bed, leave it until morning. The acid is doing quiet, slow work while you are off living your life. Come back, scrub with your brush, flush, and follow with the baking soda pass if you want. The ring that felt permanent will have loosened enough to brush away. And for the truly old deposits, the ones that have been there since before you moved in, you may need 2 or 3 of those overnight vinegar soaks, one after another over a few days before they let go entirely. That is not failure, that is patience, and patience in a house, as in most of life, tends to get you further than force. The soap scum and tank lid tricks. Now let me show you a few more places in that same bathroom where foil earns its keep, because once you understand what it does, you start seeing where it fits. The toilet seat rattle. You know the one. Every time the lid goes down, every time one of the children drops it from a height, that makes you wince a little. That loose clatter of the seat shifting on its hinges. You have tightened those bolts 3 times and it still rattles, and you have made your peace with it, and you should not have to. Take a small strip of foil and fold it over on itself several times until you have a firm little pad, not thick but dense, about the size of a postage stamp. Tuck it under the hinge point where the seat meets the bowl, on each side. Work it into the gap until the wobble is gone. The foil takes up the play in the hinge the same way a folded piece of cardstock props up a table leg that rocks. It costs nothing. It takes 2 minutes, and you would be surprised, genuinely surprised, how much quieter a house feels when one small rattle you stop noticing is suddenly gone. Silence is a thing you only hear when it comes back. The tank lid, that slab of porcelain that sits on top of the tank and that you have to lift off when something goes wrong inside, which it always does eventually, always in the worst possible moment. Most tank lids sit directly on the porcelain of the tank, and over time the hard water leaves a ring of buildup right where the lid rests. The lid itself gets a matching ring of scale on its underside, and when you lift it, it scrapes. A thin strip of foil laid along the rim of the tank before you replace the lid gives it something softer to rest on. It will not build up the same way, and it lifts off cleanly. The shower curtain rod. The chrome rail, where that rod sits in its brackets, collects soap scum and hard water residue, where the bracket meets the wall tile, right at that joint. Foil crumpled and worked gently around that bracket cleans it, the same way it cleans the faucet base. And once it is clean, if you wrap a small strip of foil around the bracket itself, it slows the new buildup from settling in, the same principle as keeping air off a cut apple so it does not brown. It is not magic. It simply keeps the surface less hospitable to what is trying to land on it. None of these are large things. I will not pretend they are. But a house is not kept by large things. A house is kept by small things done consistently, a little at a time, week after week, until the small things add up to a home that feels cared for from every corner, even the corners nobody else ever sees, especially those corners maybe. Who profits from you not knowing this? Now, I want to tell you something that I think you deserve to hear plainly because I think about it often, and I think most people sense it without having the words for it. Walk yourself down the cleaning aisle of any large grocery store. Stand there and look at it. Really look at it. Count the bottles. There is a bottle for the toilet bowl, and a bottle for the tank, and a bottle for the tile, and a bottle for the grout, and a bottle for the chrome, and a bottle for the glass, and a bottle for the soap, scum specifically, not just the grout, the soap scum, which has its own bottle now, and a bottle that you drop into the tank and it turns the water blue, which I have never fully understood except as a way of making you feel like something is happening in there. Turn those bottles around and read the ingredients on the backs of them. You will find that most of them are built around a short list of the same basic cleaning agents, dressed up in different colors, with different smells and different names, and extraordinarily different prices. The bottle for the chrome and the bottle for the tile, and the bottle for the soap scum are doing more or less the same work on more or less the same principle, you have paid for 12 bottles of mostly the same thing. The company that fills those bottles and the store that stocks them and the advertisement that convinced you that soap scum specifically required its own dedicated product, all of them do very well from this arrangement. The arrangement works as long as you believe that each problem requires its own purchase solution and that the simple things your grandmother used are somehow insufficient for the modern bathroom. They are not insufficient. The bathroom has not changed that much. Hard water is still hard water. Mineral scale is still mineral scale. The chemistry of cleaning it is exactly what it was in 1950 and in 1920 and in 1890. Mildly acidic things loosen mineral deposits. Gentle abrasion removes them without scratching. Keeping surfaces dry between uses slows their return. A dollar roll of foil and a box of baking soda and a bottle of white vinegar will do everything those 12 bottles do, and some of it better, and all of it for about $3 total. I do not say this because I think someone sat in a room and planned your ignorance. I do not believe that. I think it is stranger than that, and in a way sadder. The knowing did not disappear because it was wrong. The knowing disappeared because there was no money in it. Nobody was going to pay for an advertisement telling you that a crumpled piece of kitchen foil would clean your toilet fixtures better than the $6 spray. So nobody ran that advertisement, and without the advertisement, generation by generation, the knowing just quietly stopped being passed along. It did not fail. It was not disproved. It was simply never mentioned, and the unmentioned things fade. That is all that happened, and now here we are, and I am mentioning it. The grandmother memory. A small story. I want to tell you something a little off the main road here, because I think it matters and because I think you will understand it, even if it surprises you a little coming in the middle of a video about toilet cleaning. When I was about 9 years old, my grandmother came to help my mother before a worship Sunday, when our house would be hosting the whole district and everything had to be right. My grandmother was not a woman who wasted words or movements. She did things once and she did them correctly and she moved on. I used to watch her the way you watch someone who makes hard things look simple, trying to catch where the skill was hidden. She spent about 20 minutes in the bathroom. I was standing in the doorway, which she tolerated, barely. She had a bowl of warm water, a strip of foil from the kitchen drawer, a box of baking soda, and a rag. That was the whole kit, and by the time she walked out of that room, it looked like no one had ever used it, which, given 7 children, was nearly miraculous. I asked her what the foil was for, and she looked at me the way she sometimes did, like the answer was so obvious it almost did not deserve a voice. And she said, "It is for the scale. The water leaves its mark, and the foil takes it off without taking the shine with it." Then she went to start the bread. I have thought about that morning many times over the years. Not because it was dramatic, it was the opposite of dramatic. It was ordinary. But that is the thing about the ordinary moments. They are the ones that stay. A woman with a strip of foil, and 20 minutes and everything right by the time she walked out. That is what knowing looks like. Not complicated, not expensive, just knowing. I have tried to keep that in the way I do things and in the way I try to pass things along to you, not the complicated version. The true version, the one that works the first time and every time after, because it is built on understanding the real problem, not on buying the next bottle. So here is what I would ask of you this week, while the knowing is still fresh, and before the ordinary days come back and push it to the back of your mind. Go and look at your bathroom the way I have been describing. Get down low and look under the rim of the toilet bowl. Look at the base of your faucet. Look at the ring around your drain. Look at the bracket on your shower rod. Look at all of it the way my grandmother used to look at things, without judgment but without pretending. Just plainly, seeing what is there, and then go get the dollar roll from the kitchen drawer and tear off a piece the size of your 2 hands together, crumple it loose, dampen it, and try it on one spot, just one. You do not have to do the whole bathroom today. Pick one spot that has been bothering you and try it there. See what you see. I think you will be surprised, and I think once you have felt the scale lift under that foil and seen the shine come back underneath, something will shift in the way you think about that drawer in your kitchen and what is actually in there waiting for you. And here is what I would love, truly love, when you have tried it. Come down to the comments and tell me two things. What did you use it on and how did it go? And while you are down there, tell me what county you live in and how old your house is. The old houses with the old pipes and the old water tend to carry the hardest scale, but I have heard from people in brand new houses with new everything who have the same trouble, and it teaches me things I would not learn any other way. The woman who kept the house before me, and the woman before her, and back as far as you could follow the thread, they did not have the cleaning aisle. They had the knowing, and the knowing passed from one hand to the next, kept houses clean and money in the jar, and nobody standing in a grocery store feeling confused about which of the 12 bottles was the right one for their particular problem. This week, everything you need for that bathroom is already in your house. Very nearly all of it, and the little that is not is on a shelf 2 aisles away from those 12 bottles, costing about $3 and lasting you the better part of a year. Go try it. Come back and tell me how it went. I will be here reading every word of it. Until next time, take good care of that house and the people in it. God bless.